I don't know about you, but it's the last sentence that just makes me drop my head. About my own weakness. The first reading about giving us the commandments, laying out the rules, Jesus cleansing the temple in the gospel. And what these two stories remind me of is we have a rich and long history as both religious organizations and individuals with being unfaithful. Rich and long history of rationalizing various behaviors, co-opting them. And so that last sentence just kind of hits with what we in the Salesian tradition would call suaviter et fortiter. It's gentle but firm in its challenge and conviction and love. He himself understood it well. It's hard. And when you connect this to the second commandment, don't take the Lord your God's name in vain, as a confessor, people often say, I want to confess the second commandment, and they start talking about swearing or cursing. But that's not at all what this commandment's referencing. Our Jewish brothers and sisters have deep understandings of curse words and swear words, but that's not at all what the second commandment's about. It's about taking something that is wrong, bad, evil, insert that end of the continuum, and calling it good, holy, and well. Co-opting, rationalizing, pretending. That's what they're doing, right, at the temple. Recall that when Jesus was born, his parents had to purchase a couple turtle doves. So the very thing that he's upset about now is something that his own family participated in. What shifted in his head, we don't know. Doesn't really matter. It may have been that it had progressed to the point. Maybe it was the motion or movement from where they used to be outside and now they're inside. I don't know. But what those people were doing wasn't inherently problematic. It was part of the sacrifice at the temple. But something moved, something changed. And as I said, what we have is a tradition, if you will, in the church and in our individual lives of missing the mark, of taking the Lord's name in vain. Sin. It's a miss on faithfulness for us. And yet, with all of that as our history, what we also have is this unbroken line of a profound ritual which Jesus himself gave us, and that's this Eucharist. This Eucharist becomes the space and place for you and I to say, I will be faithful. I will regularly attend this Eucharist. There's something profound that happens in this space with this sacrament, with this gift, with this mystery. I think I've said this to you before, when they talk about studies on how many Catholics believe in the real presence, I'm never impressed with that number. It's low, but part of it is how they ask the question. They say to people, is the Eucharist real or symbol? But actually the answer to that question is yes, right? It's both of those things. It's real and symbol. So depending on how you ask the question, you're going to get a different response. But I hope that what's at the root of this mystery, so it can't be fully explained to us, but is the thing that keeps driving us back here, is the twofold reality of I'm aware of my unfaithfulness, my brokenness, my breaking of the second commandment, my rationalizations of behavior, of not wanting to move, of not wanting to be changed, and yet saying, I will be faithful to this gift. And as I move in a direction to better understand this gift, which fills me, which heals me, which does the same for you, we move a little bit closer. And we always bring both of those realities to us. He understood it well. I used to work with a guy who told me a story once that it had a profound impact on me, and it doesn't really directly have much to, well, I shouldn't say that. It has to do with God, but it really has to do with drinking. Indulge me. He said, we were having a beer when he told me this story. We were talking about when we were young, did you drink before you were of legal age? And I just kind of assumed as I knew him that he did, and he tells the story that he didn't, not one drop. I'm like, oh, come on. And he said, I'll tell you the story. He was his high school quarterback. They were playing the crosstown rival. And he just so wanted to beat him, both Catholic schools. Of course, he hated them, like good Catholic schools, hate. Believe me, I get it. He goes into the chapel before the big game, and he kneels on the pray-do in front of the Eucharist and the statue of Mary, and he says, if we win this game tonight, I will not drink until I'm 21. This was in Michigan. And they slaughtered their opponent. And he said at halftime, he thought, I didn't even need to do that. And he said, and he was a great player. He played at University of Dayton as a quarterback. And he said, even when I got to Ohio and the drinking age was 19, and friends were trying to rationalize for me why I could drink, and he said, what I said to God that day was 21. Not legal drinking age, 21. And it just struck me because I think I would have rationalized my way out of that. I know I would have. Right? Let's be honest. There's my confession to you. But like I said, I remember that story. I know where I was sitting. It had a profound impact on me because it speaks to faithfulness. And it speaks to the second commandment. And it challenges me as an individual. It wasn't, in one sense, a deep faith story, although it was. You and I being here today testifies to that. Even when I'm struggling or you're struggling, to come and be present to each other, to see each other, especially when we've gone through a bit of a long desert of not being able to see each other, a desert that we're not completely out of. We are faithful to this gift. And whatever else happened in the past year where the rug was ripped out from under all of us with no idea where it was going or how it was going to end, whatever that means, we are faithful to each other and to this Eucharist. Because you can't sustain your faith, your charity, your forgiveness, your hope on feeling and thought. You just can't. But this sacrament, this gift, we can say, I'm faithful to it. I will make a point to be faithful to it. And maybe a step in this Lent is to be more faithful to it, is to say, I'm going to go to a daily Eucharist. If schedule allows and permits it, I'm going to prove to be more faithful in this space. And part of that's for you, and part of that is for me, us. Part of what we witness to in that moment is what we say to each other, our presence. We strengthen each other in this Eucharist. That the body and blood that he hands to us strengthens us for sure. But if it was just about us, we'd be missing the mark. We'd be missing the point. And again, lastly, as always is the case, we're here not because we do it right, but because we try to do it faithfully. When students or people that I know that don't go to church say, I don't go to church because it's full of hypocrites. I say, it is. You're right. And we have room for one more if you'd like to come. Right? We are absolutely hypocritical. But we can own it and say, yep. And in spite of all that, as I said, we began by calling to mind mercy we don't deserve. And we move from that mercy to this one. Let it heal us. Let it lay bare that he knows very well our nature. And he doesn't love us in spite of it. He loves us in the midst of it. And that love challenges us to love others. That love in this Eucharist can fill the holes of our sin and brokenness and hypocriticalness and rationalization. Because when we can witness to that at all, we witness to it in a very real way. There are many stories I think we all have. I, in one sense, told you kind of a silly one over a couple of beers. But as I said, it profoundly teaches me the power of faithfulness. Your presence here today, and for those online as well, your presence is powerful. It testifies to faithfulness. It reflects God's faithfulness to us, which is renewed every day and never fails us. We may fail each other, but when we are faithful, we remind each other of God's faithfulness. When we were born, in the midst of great struggle and tumult, on our greatest days and our most embarrassing days. This Eucharist is present to us, to heal us, to make us whole, not just for ourselves, but for the whole world. What an invitation and a gift for all of us. May God be praised.